the Moore family. Donald and I met during a Disney college internship back in 2011. Shortly after, we were engaged in front of the train station at Magic Kingdom and had a Disney fairy tale wedding. It wasn't too long before we had two Mouseketeers of our own, Ella and Finn, and now we spend our time adventuring at all the Disney destinations, and we share our adventures with you. And tonight we're going to talk about how to avoid the crowds at Walt Disney World. And if you're new here and you're not sure who I am, my name is Shelby Moore. I am the mom of the Mouse and Moore family. We have an Instagram account, a Facebook group, obviously, as well as a YouTube channel, and we travel to Disney all the time. My husband and I met while working there. I became a travel agent after leaving my internship. I've been a travel agent for about 8 years. My husband and I launched our own company beginning of 2019, and we now have a team of amazing agents that work with us. Our 2-year-old daughter has been to multiple Disney destinations. She's been to Disney World 4 times, Disneyland once. She's been on a Disney cruise. We are the ultimate Disney fans, and we love to share our passion with other families and also help them navigate how to plan out a perfect magical vacation, because we know that it can be overwhelming and we know that there's a lot that goes into it, as well as a lot of money that goes into it. So we want to make sure that everyone that is planning a vacation has a magical time just like we do and can experience it the same way that we do. So we love to share that with people. So our travel agency, I should mention that, is called Jolly Holiday Travel Company. You can find us on the web at jollyholidaytravel.co. You can also find us on Instagram and Facebook under the same name. And if you're watching on Instagram and you're just jumping on, I am chatting with my friends over at the Disney Planning Group on Facebook. If you have not joined it, you should head over and check it out. We talk a lot about Disney travel. A lot of families ask questions in there and share a lot of images and stuff from their trips. So it's a fun place to hang out. You should go check it out. Okay, so guys, we are going to dive into our topic for tonight, which is how to avoid the crowds at Walt Disney World. It is such a popular question that I get. A lot of times people will send the agency a quote request and it'll say anytime in the fall where it's not crowded, or anytime in the new year when it's not crowded, or we would love to not have to take the kids out of school. When is the least crowded time to take them? So here's the first thing that I want to cover. There truly is no longer a point in the year that Walt Disney World is not crowded. So here's a couple of things that have happened. So Disney pinpoints when the parks are going to be the slowest, and that is whenever they have added in their own events that drives traffic during those dates, such as Run Disney events. January is iconic for being one of the slowest months for crowds, and it is filling up more. It's still recordly slow compared to the other months, but it's filling up more now because they have Run Disney events. They're starting that, I believe the Epcot International Art Show starts at the end of January or beginning of February. Could be wrong on that one. But they're introducing more shows at Epcot. They're introducing more Run Disney events. They have a lot of events happening in the fall. So they're introducing a lot of things. They've been doing the last 2 years, they've done a smaller like free dining offer early spring to drive traffic to those slower dates like February, like end of January and February, because it doesn't really start to pick up until spring break at the beginning of the year. So that's how they can get that, like people that have already gone back to school, those families that don't really mind skipping school, they can get them in the January, February months. But then it starts to pick up at spring break. Then you have holidays like Memorial Day, then you have all summer, and then even in the fall it stays pretty steady, because in August the southern schools are going back, and in September you have the northern schools going back, but then in October you have a couple of holidays plus Halloween, where people are really trying to get to the parks to get to participate in things. And then in November, you have Thanksgiving, and then they always have some sort of free dining happening in like the September, October, November, December months. Obviously there are some dates that are excluded in that. And then obviously December, you have Christmas the whole month, so there are always people trying to get there for that. And then you have New Year's, which is a really big day. So they really have found a way to add in so many different events and holidays and things to really just, it's always crowded, okay? That's really the point that I'm trying to make. There is always a point at Walt Disney World where it is crowded. Now, one way to help, there's a couple of things that we're going to talk about that'll help you kind of navigate all of these things. First of all, I always recommend people check a crowd calendar. There are several of them out there. They're typically all the same. Honestly, I like to compare multiple of them at a time. You can go to WDW Prep School. You can go to Undercover Tourist. You can go to, hold on, what is the other one that I'm trying to think of? The planning one. Tour plans, touring planning. I can't think of the word. If someone's watching and you know what I'm trying to say. If I can't think of it, I'll add it in the comments. I can see it in my head. Tour planning, touristplanning.com. I'll have to put it in here. I'll have to rethink about that one. Anyway, so that one's a really good one. I actually love that website. Yes, thank you, Ashley. Sister is looking out for me. Touring plans. Yes, thank you. They have a great crowd calendar. They also have a thing that you can sign up for a membership there. And they have a lot of really cool features on that website that allows you to look at the crowd calendar, plan out your trip, kind of figure out what room you want to stay in at what resort. As an agent, I love using that to help my clients. I love using that to educate myself. I use it to plan my own trips. It's just, they've done a lot of work where to me, it's like, why should they've done it all. They've done such an amazing job. I'm not going to put in the extra work to go do it myself. So I just pay the membership and I study and I do a lot of stuff or I learn a lot from them. If it's something that if it's a resort that I've never stayed in or a room that I'm interested in staying in, I want to see what it looks like. Or if I want to check out their crowd calendar, I really like theirs. So that's another one that I suggest to use. So you're going to look at the crowd calendar and then you're going to figure out, okay, what dates realistically can you go to Walt Disney World? Don't send your agent a quote and say any dates September to December, because realistically, there's a birthday, there's a wedding, there is something going on where we're supposed to just pick a random week and figure out what that doesn't help us, okay? So it's really important that you know what week or weeks. We can check multiple weeks for you, but it makes it really hard whenever you just give us month spans at a time. So it's important for you to go ahead and narrow that down. So what weeks are important to you? Check out what events are happening. Check out what the crowd levels are anticipated to be. Another thing that affects crowd levels is the release of new things happening at Walt Disney World. Like Star Wars Galaxy Edge is opening at the end of August. That's really going to affect the crowds in September, probably through the fall, honestly. It's for sure going to affect like the hotel availability. So, it's definitely going to affect the crowds, and that's going to spill over to multiple of the other parks because people are going to be going to the other parks to avoid the crowd at Hollywood Studios. So overall, it's just going to be a crowded time. And then you're going to be going into the holidays. You're going to be going into Thanksgiving. You're going to be going into Christmas. Halloween is a semi-big one. So it's going to stay pretty steady end of August and on. So it's important for you to know what is happening around the parks and what is happening on the crowd calendar, what's happening in the Disney events, for you to be able to gauge when you want to go. Maybe you want to attend one of those events. Maybe you want to avoid them. I see you, Julian. Yes, you're so funny. So those are things that you need to analyze. Also, look at your personal life. Is it worth your kids missing school? If you don't mind missing school, I would say a Sunday to a Thursday is super awesome for you to head to the park. One, it's going to be the cheapest times in the week, a Sunday to a Thursday. It's also going to be slower because obviously people are going to be there more on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So checking in on a Sunday and checking out on a Thursday, you're going to avoid those two most expensive days as well as most crowded days if you do it that way. So, okay, check your crowd calendar, figure out what works for you, blah, blah, blah. I'm losing track because you know I ramble all the time. Okay, also, here's some things that you may not realize that are happening that are going to trigger large amount of crowds. You need to think about cheer and dance groups, guys. Those happen throughout the whole year. There's multiple stages of cheer and dance groups that are happening there. They go to the ESPN center and they have competitions there, and they typically take over the value resorts like All-Star Music, All-Star Sports, All-Star Movies. They take over that place, okay? So it's really important for you to be aware when those are happening, because more than likely they're going to be a little rowdy, they're probably going to be a little loud, and if you are planning on staying in a value resort during that time, that may bother you. It's not always the case. Typically for families who have younger kids, it's not really a big deal. They don't really mind it too much. But there are also those cases where they are staying at a value resort, not realizing these big groups are there, and they're noisy, and there's chaperones in the hallways, and it is a little crazy. So it's important that you kind of are aware of what is happening. If you don't know how to look that up or what's happening, it's probably really important that you partner with an agent to help you navigate all these things. Guys, just so you know, it's not just my agency. Most Disney agencies are totally free to use. Obviously, I'm a little biased. I would love for you to use one of our adventure planners to help you plan a magical vacation. But just so you know, Disney has partnered with travel agencies to where your travel planning with them is completely free. Their expertise is completely free. It's the same price as you purchasing your trip online. So please save yourself some time and research a good planner to help you. Again, I'm a little biased. Our adventure planners are amazing. You can check them out at jollyholidaytravel.co, and you can pick out an agent to partner with there, or just click no agent and we will assign you one. They're pretty amazing. We love them. Okay. Other groups, Brazilian tour groups, guys, they are big. They're typically about 75 people or more. They are loud, they chant, they sing, they typically always wear matching clothes, and there's flags and all these things. They also take over the value resorts. They fill all the rooms. They typically will do 1 or 2 buildings at a time. The reason why this is important to know, not only for the loudness factor, but also in the mornings whenever you're trying to get on a bus, think about the fact that they're all going to be trying to get on a bus at the same place at the same time. So unfortunately, while we don't have their itinerary to know exactly where they're going to be going, it can be kind of hard to navigate how to avoid that. So if they're all going to a park at 9 a.m. and they're going to Magic Kingdom, and you also want to go to Magic Kingdom, you just got in a line behind 75 people trying to get on a bus, and it's probably going to take a few buses for you to get through. So this is what I'm trying to talk about. If that kind of stuff stresses you out, then I think it's important for you to be able to research when they are going to be there. And again, this is a great way to be able to search crowd calendars and kind of navigate what is happening. They typically come after the spring break crew. So it's like the spring break crew comes through, like the US based spring break crew, and then the Brazilian tour groups typically start after that. So that's just something to be aware of. And again, like I worked there whenever they came to visit. It was not terrible. It's just an inconvenience sometimes if you're just really trying to avoid big crowded places, which again is really not a thing. At Walt Disney World, you're always going to have a crowd happening, okay? Okay, so something else that I really want to tackle really quick is because I've gotten a lot of emails about this. People send me email and say, we really want to go for Christmas, but we also want to avoid the crowds. What would you recommend? So that's like an oxymoron, okay? So like, and also like, is that even the right word to use? I think so. Oxymoron, yes. Because Christmas is the most crowded time to go to Walt Disney World. There have been multiple times, so there are stages in which Disney shuts down a park, meaning that they won't allow people in. So the first stage is whenever they start slowing up how many employees they let in. The second stage is where they start slowing up how many annual pass holders they let in. And then it trickles down to outside guests, like people who don't have an annual pass and they're just buying a ticket to come in and they're not staying on resort property. And then the last people are the people who are staying on property and they have a ticket. So it trickles into stages, and there have been times where Magic Kingdom completely closes its doors and does not let anyone in to capacity, and Meaning, like, whenever I say to like, there are people watching the fireworks and people standing on a trash can to watch the parade or watch the fireworks. It is a little crazy. But I'm not saying this to deter you from going during Christmas, because I think it's a beautiful time of year to go. We would love to go during Christmas. We've actually never been truly during Christmas week. We've been during Christmas season. And it's a beautiful time of year to go. I've had many clients go during the week of Christmas and they thoroughly enjoyed it. But I also made sure that they were fully prepped and understood and had the right mindset and expectations for what to anticipate during that week. Most parks were going to be full. On certain days, there were going to be parks that were going to be more full than the other. During firework time and parade time, it was going to be insane. Ways to avoid that, if you were determined to go during a high traffic time, think about the fact that, like, you can go to Walt Disney World and you don't have to go to a park. Like, you can get there first thing in the morning, maybe hit up a few rides before the crowds really get there, and then you can go resort hopping. Enjoy the amenities at your resort. You can go to the playgrounds, you can go to the pools. Some of the Disney pools are heated, not all of them, but some of them. There's playgrounds all over the place a lot of times, especially during the holiday seasons, because they know how crowded the parks are. They're offering a lot of entertainment at the resorts, such as movies and games for the kids. And there is horse and carriage rides at Port Orleans, and they have archery and horseback riding at Fort Wilderness, and then there's a ton of shopping at Disney Springs. There is so much for you to do. You can go to the boardwalk. There's a lot of opportunities for you to escape the crowdedness of the park and still get to enjoy some Disney festivities. A lot of times they'll have the princesses come down into the lobby of the Grand Floridian and have a princess time, and you can hang out in the lobby and let your girls meet all the princesses. There's just a lot of things if you just do the right amount of research. There's a lot of ways for you to map out your time to really make it as magical and memorable as possible, while also avoiding the stress of being in the most crowded areas at that time. And again, like, that's for the people who are determined to go during the high traffic times, but also want to avoid the crowds at the same time. So I know it's a little crazy, but people send me those emails all the time. Other really high times is obviously Thanksgiving week is going to be crowded. July 4th is going to be crowded. Pretty much any holiday, because people are trying to maximize their vacation time, any holiday you can guarantee is going to be a crowded time. And also think about, like, special events throughout the year, like the Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. The Halloween parties closer to Halloween are going to book up quicker and are going to be very crowded. If you're wanting to enjoy that type of festivity and not have it as crowded, go at one of the ones at the end of September, beginning of October, and avoid the ones at the end of the month. Same thing for the Christmas party. Avoid the ones closer to the holiday and do the ones further out, because one, typically they're a little bit less expensive whenever you do it further away from the holiday, and two, it is going to be a less crowded time to go, because everyone typically tries to do it closer to the actual holiday. So there are ways for you to enjoy times of the year that is crowded, but still stay in the least crowded time of the highest traffic times. Does that make sense? I feel like that made no sense, but I know you get what I'm saying. Okay. So something else that I mentioned it a few times, and I've mentioned it several times in other videos as well, but I think it's really important for everyone to understand that the outcome of your trip is affected truly by your expectations and your mindset. I think it's really important for everyone that is planning a Disney vacation to just set in your mind that there are going to be some rides that have an hour wait. There are going to be some rides that have over an hour wait. There are going to be times where you have to walk up to a ride and you have to decide, is this worth it for me to ride this, or do I want to go do something else? Am I going to be devastated that I didn't get to ride this ride? If the answer is yes, then get in line and find fun things to do. You can do scavenger hunt. There's so many games that you can download onto your phone to entertain the family. The heads up game with your phone is so much fun with the whole family while you're waiting in line. Getting some strangers and some strange new family members that you want to bring in. It's such a fun way to create memories with your family while you're trying to kill time waiting in those long lines rather than complaining about how long the line is and then getting on the ride. It affects the mood of the trip whenever you start the whole complaining process about the crowds. So the crowds are not going to go away. There are ways to make it easier. If you have smaller children and the park is feeling a little too much, but you're not really ready to leave yet, there are multiple play areas and baby centers in the park. For example, whenever we go to Magic Kingdom, we love heading over to the hub grass. It's typically an open area. There may be a few people there. Obviously, during the more busy times of year, it gets a little crowded, and during the middle of the day, it can feel a little crowded, but early in the morning and in the afternoon, it is open. There's also a full play structure at Epcot that has been built. There's a grassy area, and there's picnics, and there's a playground for them to play in. This is just a great way to kind of escape from some of the things that are going on and enjoy the festivities and the things that are happening and let the kids kind of just like stretch their legs and feel a little free. Okay, I know I have some things coming in on both pages, so let me see what is happening here. Yes, Run Disney events. I did mention those. We often get slack because we go when it's crowded and too hot, but my husband is a teacher and we can only go touring plans and the tips here make it all. Yes, love touring plans. And yeah, I mean, sometimes you have to go during the hottest time of the year, and sometimes you have to go whenever everyone's out of school, and that's okay. That's not a big deal. A lot of times the events that they have to entertain the crowds are a lot of fun and totally worth it. So don't feel like that if you're planning a trip during the crowded time that you're not going to enjoy it. That's totally up to you and how you choose to plan your trip and your mindset about your trip. If you partner with the right planner and the right person that's experienced with the type of travel that you're trying to plan, then you can truly have a great experience. It really just is up to you. Bubbles for outdoor lines. My son and I do if you're happy and you know it too. Plus the standby lines often have activities like Winnie the Pooh. Yes, this is so true. This is really cool. So a lot of the rides for, typically for like that can be for the younger people. I guess that's not true. I take that back because Space Mountain has an interactive portion. Snow White Mine Train has an interactive portion, or Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. Winnie the Pooh has like interactive play areas. There are some rides where they've gotten really smart and started adding in some interactive cues where as you're going through the queue, it doesn't feel as boring. Dumbo is a great example of this. They added a new Dumbo tent, and then there's 2 Dumbo actual rides. And so if the wait time is really long, they actually will give you like a beeper until it's time for you to actually get back in line. And while you have the beeper, your kids can go and play in this indoor play structure that is really cool. I have been through Dumbo multiple times and have yet to get to see it open, but I've seen the play structure itself without kids getting to play on it. I'm really actually hoping it will be open this November whenever I take the kids, because I know Ella would love to play on that. I wouldn't even mind to see if I could like sneak in and just let her play and not ride the ride. So we'll see. Bubbles is a great activity. If you go to Pinterest, there are a ton of options on while you're waiting in line or how to pass the time. Think about like road trip games, easy stuff that you can come up with. If you need to make a list and save it in your phone or make something and print it out and keep it in your backpack, there is so many ways to pass the time. And also, if there comes a point where you come to a ride during the crowded times and it just doesn't feel right for you to ride that ride right now, there are going to always be some form of entertainment happening throughout the parks that you can participate in. So, for example, whenever I worked in Frontierland, they used to have a mock flash mob, basically. So they would have a lot of cast members dressed up as Frontierland cast members, and they would start playing music several times throughout the day. And then they would all rush to the streets, and these characters would come out of nowhere, and they would start dancing and having fun, and they would pull the kids in, and everyone was dancing and doing this like little Frontierland hoedown. And it happened through several times throughout the day. It just wasn't necessarily on all of the guest maps. Like, you didn't know about it until it just happened. There's so much of that. Main Street has a ton of that. Hollywood Studios is really known for this because they're Hollywood Studios, so they'll have a lot of actors and comedians come out and put on street shows. Same thing with Epcot. There's a lot of like random bands that are like pulling like these random things. I think there's one that's like a garden, and he's like has a wheelbarrow, and they have street cans, all this kind of stuff, and they start making music with all of like the garbage cans and like the gardening gear. There's just so many ways for you to entertain your family while still not feeling like you're stuck in just a crowded bubble. So I just wanted to really make sure that I got that point across today whenever we tackled this topic. But to narrow it all down and to sum it all up, if you're truly saying you have the whole year open, it doesn't matter when you go, when is the best time for you to travel? I would say January to mid-February. The end of February starts to pick up with a few events that are happening, like the Princess Run Disney event, and then you start diving into spring break and Easter, so that picks up. So I just suggest, if you don't care, and if the weather doesn't bother you, because the weather's always hit or miss in January. It could be cold, it could be hot, it could be rainy. It's always rainy in Orlando, but it could be one day you're wearing shorts and t-shirt and the next day you actually need a sweatshirt. So if you're okay with the wishy-washy weather in January is a wonderful month for you to go, and the beginning of February is a fantastic month for you to go. My husband and I went on vacation in mid-February several years ago. That's actually when we got engaged, and we've actually typically go during February or November, typically every single time we've traveled since then. February has always been a great time, less crowds. We've been able to get always the reservations that we want. Same thing with early November after Halloween. They haven't fully set up for Christmas, haven't fully taken down for fall, so you're kind of in limbo land. That typically has been a really good week for us to go. We got married November 9th. I believe now that is the Food and Wine Festival half marathon that they typically do right around that time. So after that has ended and before Thanksgiving is a great time to go. And then again, January, beginning of February. So that's when I would recommend, if you're trying to avoid absolutely as lowest crowds as possible, that's when I would recommend that you go. Everything else is going to be average to high crowds. So hopefully you guys found this helpful and informative, and maybe just gave you a little bit of peace of mind to know, like, you're going to have a crowd, and that is okay. You're still going to have a wonderful vacation, and it's going to be absolutely magical. And if you're feeling at all stressed about getting this planned out, or when you should go, or you're still feeling a little confused, reach out to our amazing agents at Jolly Holiday Travel Company. There is the link in this video that you can click on. You can submit a quote. You don't have to pick an agent. We can assign one to you. Or if one looks just happy and you just feel like you are connected to that person, then go for it. They're all amazing. We love them. And always, I'm an open book. I hang out on Instagram. If you're watching on Facebook, you can follow us on Instagram at mouse.and.more on Instagram. You can always shoot me messages there or comment here in the Disney planning group here on Facebook. And I try to answer all of your questions as much as possible. But I hope you guys have a wonderful night, and I will see you on Thursday when we tackle our next Disney planning.